Hello and welcome to the Fun Going Fast channel. Today I got something a little different for you. Usually I review ATVs, reasons to buy them, reasons not to buy them. Everybody says my reasons are wrong, but I get the most views on those videos than any other, so go figure. But today, since I've got these for a minute, I thought I'd do a quick review comparison of a Honda CRF 250X and a 250R. So I do have a review on the 250R. This is my partner's son's bike. And he's not ridden it in about 2 years, but I come out and start it on occasion. But these are really fun bikes to ride. They're great for somebody getting into motorcycling, but they're also awesome if you've got experience, and they're a great woods bike. I know Honda's come out with newer editions finally to kind of compete with KTM, but this guy, I think they started making it in 05 or so. That's an 06, and they made them for quite some time. So that's a CRF 250X, and this is a 2016 CRF 250R. So it is fuel injected and that's carbureted, but I think they made these until about 2016 if I'm not mistaken. So this is, and with 0 changes, so this is actually not a completely unfair comparison, because in around 2015 or 16 you could buy both of these motorcycles at the same time out of the showroom. So people wonder about the distances or the differences. In case you don't know, obviously this is made for racing, so that's a no-brainer. It's the same motors, so let's take a quick look. It's technically the same Honda 250, although the 16 is updated, but this guy on the X has a little bit of a different personality. So it's geared more and designed more for low-end power. It'll still rev out to 11,000 RPMs, but it makes its power more smoothly and earlier, whereas this thing is a beast. Obviously it doesn't have much low end, not supposed to. It's supposed to rip, and it does. And this thing even has power modes, because this guy's fuel injected with the ECU. You have 3 different maps you can set it, but with any of the maps you still are not going to be a true trail riding machine. You're going to have to keep the revs up. Whereas on the X, you can really tell with that first gear, it is really friendly. You can creep around the yard in this thing at a couple of miles an hour if you want to. And then just hit the revs and go. Whereas this thing, you could really have to slip the clutch if you're going to do low speed riding like that. You can see fundamentally, the foundations are basically the same with that Honda aluminum frame. You can see right there, that Showa aluminum frame. Showa, however you say it. Very, very similar, obviously. Same aluminum swing arms. Shocks are obviously different. They look pretty similar. They're valved differently. These are much softer forks on the 250X, and so smooth on the trail. Even on rough stuff, this thing just floats and will not beat you up. Whereas the race bikes, you can get the suspension revalved, but from the factory, you better be young and enthusiastic and have some fresh arms and legs, because this thing's going to give you a lot of feedback. When you go around, you can see seats are pretty similar. So the R looks like it's set up a little bit taller, probably has a little bit more suspension travel, I would guess. I haven't looked at the specs, so that it can handle the higher jumps, whereas the X got a little less travel, but it's a lot smoother. This guy has a 19-inch rear tire. This is an 18-inch. All the good trail bikes have 18-inch tires. They just work better on the trail, whereas if you want to rail the berms, the 20-inch rear is the way to go. So obviously you could get the suspension revalved, switch to a 18-inch wheel and tire, make this more of a woods bike, but this guy from the factory is pretty impressive. But you can see, very, very similar bikes. Like I said, exact same foundations and similar setups. The R comes with the, actually I'm not sure if these are the factory bars or not. I suspect maybe they're not. They're contours, they're nice bars, and they've got a nice sweep to them. This has got a little bit of a more conservative, older style. It almost feels like riding an older trail bike a little bit. Ergonomics are very, very different. This gives you a much more of an upright room and spot to move around on the bike, when you're jumping. Whereas this, you can stand on it, but it's pretty comfortable to sit and ride, and it's okay with you sitting and riding. And this is pretty close cousin to the L. As you can see, it even came with the equipment to where you could make it street legal with turn signals and a horn. Whereas obviously that's not the case on the R ever. So you can really tell on the R, like I said, I mean, it's designed to be a race bike and it feels like it. I do love this dual exhaust they put on the Rs. That's really sweet looking and it sounds great. Whereas you got the single exhaust on the X. Oh, this needs to be repacked. It's really loud. And I know this looks a little janky. I just leave the seat unbolted so I can keep a float charger on it since it's not getting ridden very often. But from the Kickstarter side, you can see also, you know, very similar again, same frames, same engine designs, just a little bit of different motor characteristics. You know, Honda is sort of like Toyota or Honda manufacturing. They get something that they like that works and they stick with it for a while, which it may not be like the most avant-garde and edgy technology like a KTM, but it also is much more reliable. The other thing in starting these, obviously they both have kick starts, but the X had electric start as soon as it came out, and in 2016 it was still kick only. They've added electric later, but man, once you get used to that magic start button, it's hard to go back. But you can kind of see the rear brake designs are pretty similar. You can come around. I did look at the front tires are basically the same. Pretty cool how they updated the brake rotors with asymmetrical brake rotors, so that's supposed to cool the brakes a little quicker versus a traditional brake rotor on the 250X. But very similar setups, radiators the same place. Obviously this came with a headlight. This one's not the factory and it needs to be worked on a little. It's looking a little rough. And you can see the old school odometer that came with it, all these Trail Techs. Can't recommend a Trail Tech enough. These things are awesome. Shows the RPMs. Shows RPMs, time, outside temperature. So really cool. So if you're into two wheels, I've gotten into four more these days, but if you're into two wheels and you're trail riding, you can pick up a used 250X for, I've seen them for under $3,000, and that's a great bike for $2,000, $2,500. It'll run forever, and you can do a lot of different things with it. But if you're gonna race and you don't want a 450, you want something light that'll rip, can't go wrong with the 250R. All right, thanks for watching. Next video on an ATV coming soon.